Not Without Hope is one of the most impactful movies you will see this year. Quentin Plair, Terrence Terrell, Marshall Cook, Zachary Levi. This movie, you guys coming together. Zachary, tell us what this movie is about, because I did not know this story before watching this movie.
Yeah, Not Without Hope is about four friends, a true story about four friends. Two of them happen to be NFL football players, Marquis Cooper and Corey Smith. And these four guys went on a fishing trip in 2009 off the coast of Tampa, Florida. And it ended up being a very ill-fated fishing trip. They got their anchor caught. In the attempt to free the anchor, they capsized the boat, and then a massive storm rolled in. And then they were essentially lost at sea for multiple days. During that time, Marquise, Corey, and Will all perished. And Nick Schuyler was the sole survivor. He went on to write a book about the ordeal. And now we have been fortunate enough to turn that story into a film to honor specifically those men who are not here anymore with us. And it's a harrowing story. It is very intense. But ultimately, I think it leaves the audience believing in hope at least a little bit more, in fighting against all odds, and knowing that there is always that shred of hope to cling to hold on to in the depths of despair. And so that's what the movie's all about.
Such an important message. Quentin, what was building that brotherhood like between the four of you? Because you could see it so evident on screen.
Yeah, no, I mean it was a very specific and unique experience. This is not the togetherness that you'd have from certain other productions. This obviously there were more people in the film, but for the large amount of it, it was pretty much just the four of us, and the four of us going through something that I don't think a lot of other people had that similar shared experience. It was something that we all had to fight through, all had to challenge ourselves with, while still understanding that it was nothing compared to what the men really went through. Nothing compared to. But it still was challenging. And when you go through that with somebody right next to you, in a really intimate way, this I felt like this was a very intimate telling of a survival story. A lot of survival stories, you get the big, the gigantic tornado, the big ocean waves, and all those things. This felt like it was kind of an inner close look at these men going through that. And there was just so much just organic truth between all of us, myself with Zach, Marshall with Terrence, all of us together. I really thought there was so much connectivity when we were out there going through that. And all of us, I felt, shared a passion and a want to really honor these men, to tell the story truthfully. Maybe not us as much, but the Coast Guard as well. They need to be honored in what they did. Uh, and yeah, we were just all out there together going through it. And we all put the proper care to it. And it's just real easy to bond when you're going through these things together with four men, and we all have a shared goal and a shared destination.
It's such a beautiful representation of making sure the victim stories are told. Terrence, what was filming these scenes like? Because like they said, most of this movie takes place in the water. You guys are in the water going through these conditions. How did you prepare to film these kind of scenes?
See, that's the thing. I came into this thinking that you could prepare for it. So I took like the swimming class. It was so funny because I'm 6'6", 200, so I'm pretty strong.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was not Trevor. It's a whole different thing going on. Don't worry. But anyway, so I go to this swimming class. You have all these little kids diving and everything else, and I'm a pretty decent swimmer. But I'm thinking like, oh, I need to go this because I want to be a performer. But when we got in there with those tanks and water, like every take action, you were fighting for your life. I know I was. It was freezing, and like Quentin said, the camaraderie was just there because we had to hold each other even, when we were waiting for the next take, because it was freezing. It was something I've never experienced before. But as an actor, you want to throw yourself into something like that, because like now you have like a medal. Like I did that. That was no blue screen. That was real water, and we were really in there. So yeah, I feel accomplished. But it was a very aggressive production.
Authentic storytelling. Marshall, did you have any talk with Bleakley's family, or did anyone else have any talks with the victims' families?
No, I didn't have any access to. I did reach out to his mother via Facebook, very respectfully. Could totally understand if she didn't want to engage on this. So, besides that, it was Nick, in the book, in the script, and Joe, and then these guys, and yeah, obviously liberties have to be taken. You just try to do that respectfully, and it's a combination of all those elements and myself, and then that's the character.
Zachary, I want to ask you about your connection with Nick Schuyler. Obviously, there's probably some survivor's guilt there. He's going on Oprah. You see that at the end of the movie. You see him that he's not with his friends, that unfortunately for him, he is the one that survived. Thankfully, he had this hope, but he still is going through this tragedy that still he has to be dealing with on a day-to-day basis. What was your kind of connection with Nick? How did you kind of connect with him and help you portray his character?
I was able to spend some time with Nick on a few phone calls prior to shooting the film, and just try to pick his brain and heart as best I could, and gather as much information as possible for what he was experiencing, feeling, thinking during that time. It was obviously a very traumatic experience for him, and so 16 years on, by the time I was talking to him, it's tough for someone to recall a lot of detail, but I got as much as he could give me. As Marshall was saying, the book and then ultimately the script, that's really what's informing you mostly as an actor. I mean, if it's done well, and it was. And then Nick was also, he and Paula, they visited us on set for a few days when we were shooting, which was very surreal for us and for them, particularly I think because they came in the midst of some of these death scenes. I think it was when Marquis was dying, and then ultimately when Corey was dying.
He was right there.
And so that had to have been, and Nick even said it was very out of body almost, to be witnessing that, and yes, and to be carrying, I don't think that I think Nick has processed it all a lot, obviously, and he's gone on to live a life worthy of that survivor mentality, and have a wonderful wife and children, and I think in that honoring his friends, like to go on and to not just survive, but to go and thrive, and to do that. But I don't know what it's like to, we can, as actors, we can do our best to try and recreate something like this, but I can't even imagine, even though I tried to imagine as best I could while we were filming it, it scratches the surface to an actual person watching three of his friends pass away before his eyes. That's, beyond my comprehension, really, and hopefully I will never experience something as sad and as drastic as that. But I know that Nick is proud of what we did. I know that he has seen the movie and he is happy with our performances. And to me, that is the only audience that really matters. Right out of the gate, are we honoring those that are still alive? And from their perspective, are we honoring those that are no longer with us? And from Nick's perspective, we've done that. So I'm just grateful that we got to do that. And I'm hopeful that the audiences, around the country will be able to go and see this and also take that from the film.
I'm so glad you have that stamp of approval, because not everyone gives that approval when doing kind of biopics or when rehashing people's lives. Quentin, did you have any kind of connection with Marquis's family, or did you try to reach out to them as well?
We again, kind of like what Marshall said, didn't have access. I've had family members of his reach out afterwards with kind words, which really meant a lot to me, because I think all of us have said that's something that I cared about very deeply, not making this tragedy any worse for the people still here. That's something I cared about the most. It was paramount to me. But no, didn't have the ability to talk to anyone. I did get kind of lucky that someone on set was from the same hometown as him. So I got, and did know him through people. So I did I was able to get kind of a little bit of the demographics of what it was like growing up in that area, especially for someone Black in that area. And so I was able to take that and just, add that little bit into what I was bringing to the table, and then just the research I was able to do with the source material of the book and the script, and just things that I found online um, about him, and people talking about him, teammates, friends that knew him, and just the words that they used to describe him, and just kind of do my best to bring that to life.
Honoring their lives, honoring this story. You guys give terrific performances. It's such an incredible movie. Not Without Hope, in theaters December 12th. Thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you,
so
Trevor.
much, Trevor.
Have a great day.